Hello boys and girls, welcome to BenchART. I'm for Classic, and for today what I do have needed is Far Cry 6, a game developed by a ton of Ubisoft teams, and it is using their Dunia engine, which is the same engine that was used on the previous Far Cries, but obviously have been improved over time. This time around it uses the X12, and let's check out my recommended settings for you to play the game. So first of all, 1080p. I'm using median settings because it is the settings that provides me the experience to be above 60 frames per second most of the time. I did activate Fidelity FX CAS because I like sharpening, and I'm not using FSR or resolution scaling or any dynamic resolution scaling in here. So let's jump to the results. These results I did gathered from the benchmark tool, which is pretty good and represents pretty much the performance that you will get with the game. And as you can see, median settings is the only setting that provides an experience entirely above 60 frames per second, because as soon as you go to the high settings, you start to have drops below 60. Ultra settings, it was fine too, but pretty much half of the experience was below 60 frames per second. This was again gathered through the benchmark tool. It is expected that at some points in the game, especially the prologue at the beginning, there were moments that even at the median settings, I did saw the game dropping below 60 frames per second. And you will also see that in this video that in more lush environments the game does drop a little bit below the 60. So looking to the requirements, we are clearly not even close to the recommended, because at the recommended they do recommend my CPU, which I do agree though, but for the GPU they do recommend a GTX 1080 or an RX Vega 64. So the GTX 1650 Super, it is slower than this, and so we are kind of stuck in between the minimum setting, the minimum recommendations I mean, and the recommended. I also do recommend a lot for you to have 16 gigs of RAM, as the game, at least for me, it does use above 80. Alright, so that's mostly just that I want to say. Alright, so I just want to increase a little bit in here the field of view, because 75 looks a little bit consolized to me. Everything looks very narrow. So increasing this to 90, it does penalize a little bit the performance. Alright, all those results were at 75, which is the default that the game comes. But if you are a guy like me and you want to increase a little bit the field of view, it is to be expected that your performance will be a little bit penalized, because you will be overviewing a little bit more of the scenario. Right, so there are some things that I want to talk about the performance. Is that this time around the game uses the X12, which is it is okay and helps the CPU. But some of the drops that I did notice below 60 frames per second, it was more of an urban environment with a lot of small details going on. And the GPU usage did drop sometimes to 90% or even 85%, which means that there is some bottleneck going on there is some bottleneck going on to the GPU. I believe it is the CPU. I'm not saying that the Ryzen 5 from the 3000 generation can't handle it. It's mostly that Dunia engine always loved single core performance and never was really a multi-threaded engine, at least not that much. And even today it stands pretty much like that, because all those moments where I was having kind of a small bottleneck going on, my CPU just was around 30%. So clearly there was a lot of CPU waiting there to be used, but something was a little bit bottlenecking the CPU. I'm not saying that all the moments where the drops will be because of the CPU or the Dunia engine. No, not entirely. There are some more demanding moments which the GPU is not enough to feed those 60 frames per second all the time. But even with those drops, the game is very smooth. There is barely any stuttering going on. I didn't felt any, so everything is a very, very smooth experience. And even at the median settings, the amount of details that gets in front of you, it is really amazing. This kind of jungle environment with all the trees and the leaves balancing to the wind, it is really something really great. I saw some reviewers, critics and even YouTubers complaining about the graphics. I don't think so. I really think that the graphics are absolutely beautiful. You might not be having the best shadows in the world or all the effects, but still, I mean, the world feels very, very alive when it comes to the jungle environment. Yes, you can't put palm trees down just like in Crysis, but still it feels very convincing to me. It's very, very beautiful. Everything looks very vibrant. So it's a good looking game, in my opinion, even at medium settings. Now, talking about the game. So it's just another Far Cry. Ubisoft created another Far Cry, which what it does change it is the thematic, the story, despite it's kind of predictable. But it's simply another Far Cry where you'll be bouncing around the map and doing side stuff, and you know, it's just like the old Far Cries. Essentially, that's pretty much that. You just need to do side quests, do crafting, and go from one place to another. And the formula, it is pretty much the same, barely changes, and after kind of 1 or 2 hours of gameplay, not to, I mean after the prologue though, as soon as you start to get into the gameplay loop of the game, you will see that's exactly Far Cry. Alright, just like all the predecessors, just like Far Cry 5, Far Cry 4, so it's exactly the same game. They didn't kind of took a chance to create something new. No, it's simply more of the same. If you are not tired about this formula, then that's great for you. You can go and buy Far Cry 6 in an heartbeat, because I'm pretty sure you will enjoy it. It's still a fun game though, but I mean, for the people that are kind of this repetitive formula, and the fact that Far Cry have been kind of the same all these years, it's a little bit disappointing that Ubisoft didn't made too much changes to make this game something different and something more interesting. All right, but apart from that, it's a good game if you are willing to close your eyes to the fact that the game is more of the same of the predecessors. But that's pretty much that. It's another Far Cry. All right. So guys, I think that's all that I want to talk about Far Cry 6. Hope you keep enjoying the rest of the video, and I do hope to see you soon. Goodbye.
How's the earpiece? Can you hear me okay?
Loud and clear. This spy shit works, Clara. I'll give you that.
Bien. Keep your gun holstered if you want to stay out of trouble, especially in areas with a lot of soldados.
See, I got it.
A smart guerrilla picks their battles. Suerte.
We're looking for a man named Juan Cortez.
I don't know the name.
I'm a good person. Por favor.
Papers.
I don't have them on me, senora.
The papers. That's a serious offense.
That looks like a Juan.
Today we drink in the worst fucking cantina in...
¡Drop your weapons! ¡Ahora mismo! the crocodile.
Okay, we're good. Let's get the hell out of here before the whole fucking army shows up.
Shit.
I'm drunk, but I'm not that drunk.
Right behind you, old man.
That was Guapo wants to be your friend. Or maybe he just needs to take a dump.
Only one way to find out.
Never do that again, Danny!